Okay, do you want to know how to study for and pass any law school exam? Well, I'm going to give you some study tips and some formulas about how you can approach any law school exam. It doesn't matter if it's an essay, multiple choice, fill in a blank. There's certain formulas that you have to do for law exams to pass. And oftentimes people may know the material, but it still may end up failing because they don't actually employ the formula. So stay tuned. Okay, so you made it to law school, so you've proven you have the mental aptitude to withstand some of the difficult situations you're going to approach in law school. But how you approach law school exams is very particular. Probably nothing like you've seen before in undergrad or any other master's programs. There's definitely a particular way you have to study for and approach a law exam. So I want to tell you about how to study, and then I'll also show you and walk through actually a criminal law exam so that you can see how I approach a law exam and how you should also be approaching it as well. The first thing I'm going to give you a tip on, though, is for studying. You want to make sure that you're in a comfortable environment, have on comfortable clothes, not too stuffy, not too comfortable that you'll fall asleep, but comfortable enough so that you can be able to relax and understand the material that you're trying to process, which is oftentimes a lot of material. So that's the first thing. Get a comfortable environment, be in comfortable clothes so that you can actually be in the mental mindset to study. Okay, so the next tip is actually how you study. And it starts out with outlines and the notes you take in class and any supplements you may use. All these play into how you study later. And so I know study groups is a big thing that some people say, hey, I wasn't used to study groups, but in law school, it may actually be helpful for you. Processing a lot of information, somebody may be able to process it better than you did and be able to share the information so that you are working smarter, not harder. I know in my particular study group, we had one particular girl who she studied last minute, but she caught on very fast to information. So she may not have covered the information in her studying, but if we say, hey, we're struggling with this information, we don't know this concept, she may not even have seen the concept before. And so we were helping her in that extent, but then she understands the concept. And so she said, oh, that's easy. I can break it down for you guys. So shout out to Denise. She was our study group break it downer, and she always helped us understand the most complicated topics. And she's like, oh, that's easy. So having people in your group who are good at different things is very important. And we used to meet up and have study groups every so often. We also used to share time breaking down briefing cases, and so that it wouldn't be too much for us to do at one time. If you watch my other video, 5 things I wish I knew before I went to law school, that was one of the things I mentioned about working smarter and not harder. We basically assigned, and we had maybe 30 cases to brief. We each assigned each other different cases to brief, and then we exchanged the briefs so that we can be apprised of all the cases in general without having to actually go through 30 cases. So study groups, I think, are a big, important thing. Some people benefited from it. Some people didn't. I personally did, and I didn't before law school. So I'm glad I decided to say, hey, let me give it a chance, because it actually was beneficial for me and the other people in my study group. I believe there were 5 of us in the group, and I think that it was beneficial for all of us because we all had different qualities that we were basically feeding off of each other with. Okay, another study tip is whether or not to use supplements. There are all kinds of supplements out there. Some of them brief cases for you. Some of them break down information. I know Emmanuel has some supplements, and I particularly like Emmanuel. This one is actually for taking the MBE, but it's actually helpful for preparing you for law exams that have a multiple choice portion on it. And so I think that supplements have their place in law school studying. I wouldn't rely on them totally. It's basically relying on somebody else to translate information for you. But they basically, sometimes you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out a concept, and the supplement can basically help you understand it in a way sooner time. So I would say supplements have their place. I would have it as part of my study solution, but not a sole solution. Outlines are also important when you're breaking down notes that you've taken in class, to put them in an organized fashion based on subjects. And that way you can say, okay, when I'm reflecting on studying later, I go to my outline. If I don't understand anything, I move over to my supplement. And then when I get to my study group, we all break it down together. So there's a formula to studying as well in law school. And I think that outlines and supplements are important. Okay, another way to study is actually doing old law school exams. Most law schools have a library where they keep a copy of all previous law school exams, and you can go back in there and print them out or copy them and actually practice them. And I would say this is the best way to actually study as well. After you've done the studying, memorize the law, go to a law school exam that was previously administered. And you will have a particular formula that you approach law school exams, particularly essay exams. And I'm going to basically go through something that you should be thinking about every time you take a law school exam. It doesn't matter what the subject is. I know somebody told me recently that they went to the law school with somebody who was previously a police officer, and the police officer took a crim law exam and failed. And you would think, heck, this police officer should know the crim law exam because he used to be a police officer. But it's not just about knowing the substantive information. It's about learning how to take a law school exam and the formulas that you must use to take the particular exam. So I'm going to break down a crim law exam and how you should basically approach an exam in general. And let me know basically if you decide that this is the best way of breaking it down, or if you have other approaches that you find important as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a law school exam on the screen, and I'm basically going to walk through how you're going to approach any law school exam. And this has happened to be a criminal law exam. And so basically you're going to go ahead and read the essay exam question through once before you even start analyzing anything. Always read through it once. I don't want you to miss anything. So read through the whole fact pattern once, and then go through it and read it again and start circling issues. Like actually saying, okay, let me find issues. You want to spot at least 3 issues. This is a law exam. All professors are testing your ability to spot issues and recognize them. If you're like, oh, I see 2 issues and keep it moving, you're going to miss out on points just for the lack of identifying those issues. And that applies to the bar exam as well. So at minimum, you need to look for at least 3 issues. Some of the law professors test more, but let's say 3. So it forces you to find issues if you feel like, oh, I don't see anything else. It forces you to say, hey, let me look a little further. After you circle all your issues, then I want you to basically write the law next to each issue. So at this point, this requires you actually having memorized the law. There's no substitution for memorizing law. The law for burglary is this. The law for rape is this. And so if you circle the issue, you write the law next to it very briefly so that you remember that that's the law. After you actually put the law next to each issue, I want you to realize, like, when you're answering the question, you answer in a particular format. You can do CRAC. So conclusion, rule, analysis, conclusion again. So you would state very briefly, because this is a law exam, you don't have as much time. The person is guilty of burglary. State what burglary is. Put the facts that you've identified that made you think that burglary was even an issue in the particular case, and analyze why you believe that the facts meet the elements for burglary. Well, let's say you identify that this perhaps is something that they're going to try to test about burglary, but all the elements are not met. Don't miss out on identifying an issue because you're saying, oh, that could be burglary, but it's missing the element, so I'll skip over it. That's what the professor is testing you on. Did you identify that this perhaps could have been a particular crime, but it was missing an element? Still identify it, analyze it, say, hey, these are the rules for burglary. However, it's missing this particular element, so the elements for burglary have not been met. Don't lose out on points for not identifying something because you feel like, oh, it wasn't met. Also, when you're actually doing your case, let's say you circling all the issues and you get down and say, okay, I think that is done. Don't forget to address defenses. To say, what's the defense? Defense of property, defense of self. That's can be for criminal law. If there are any civil defenses, so if you're doing a Civ Pro exam, don't leave out defenses. There's always have to put on your other hat when you're identifying particular issues. And that's with law in general. If you represent a client and you can't see what the opposing party may be bringing up, then you are not such a decent attorney, because you have to be able to see it from both sides and prepare both sides. And that's basically what the law school exam is testing you on. These are the particular elements. These are the particular crimes that this person can be charged with. You finish that, bam, hit them with the defenses. The person may raise this as a defense because, and then identify the particular facts that would support your information that said this is a defense. Also, a pro tip, don't get caught up on, can this person be charged with this? Can this person be sued for this? If you're a lawyer, you know that you can sue anybody for anything. We're a litigious society. You can sue anybody for anything. The real question is, will you win? So never fall short of saying that you can't get sued. You can get sued for anything. There's frivolous suits all the time. But if you are sued, how are you going to have the case dismissed? Are you going to dismiss it under summary judgment if you're in civil procedure? Are you going to dismiss it based on the defense to the particular issue if you're in criminal procedure? Think of all the defenses. Think of both sides of the story when you're analyzing and when you're actually practicing as an attorney as well. So if you basically use the CRAC method to identify what you conclude the issue is, the rule for the issue, applying the facts to the law, and then concluding whether there is a crime or there are defenses to the crime, then basically you've identified. Repeat. Wash and repeat for each issue that you found. And you have to do this in a very brief and succinct way. And once you practice the formula, apply it to any law school essay exam. You'll see that you're able to get it done fast. This applies to the bar exam too. You're going in, you have limited time, spot the issues, hit them with the law, the rule of law, analyze the facts with the law, and conclude. Keep it moving. And like I said, don't get caught up on thinking there's only 2 issues. Usually it's at minimum 3 issues that the professor or the bar examiners are testing you on. So that's basically my little tidbit about how you approach an essay exam. Okay, so remember I said you should be practicing doing exams to prepare you for the actual law exams. I just gave a brief overview about how you do an essay exam, and I also want to talk to you about how you approach multiple choice exams. Because personally, that was my downfall. I was like, oh, it's too many choices. I don't know what to do. Listen, you're going to see multiple choice exams again on the bar exam. And that's when actually doing supplements like the MBE supplements helps. Doing the questions over and over again and identifying how you cannot get tripped up on things. Once you know the law, you should be able to identify the answer. And it doesn't matter if they put anything in there that distract you. Just actually knowing the information and practicing doing multiple choice exams is going to help you. So I would suggest you actually practice. And I know that wasn't my strong point. I can spit out information. I can identify issues in essays. But the multiple choice, it was like a mind thing for me. And so I had to actually change my mindset and figure out, just practice multiple choice. Just keep doing them. Keep doing them over and over again. And basically you'll get better at it as well. Okay, so hopefully I offered you some good advice about how to survive law school, studying for the exams, and even for the bar exam ultimately. I wanted to share some tips. Hindsight is usually 20/20, and I wish that I would have approached this early on, but I'm glad I did realize it at a certain point. Let me know any other tips that you have that you found that have helped you, and maybe you can help somebody else too. This is a learning community, and I want to share information between other people who are trying to get into law school, who may be studying for the LSAT, who are actually in law school, or even studying for the bar exam. So I appreciate you commenting below. Let me know of any other topics you would like me to discuss. I know this particular topic was something that somebody actually referred to in another one of my videos, and so I decided to do this topic this time. So I'm glad to offer any other videos that can help you in your law school and beyond journey.